This is Ready, Set, Reiki Live, a podcast about Reiki and all energy work. From the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready, Set, Reiki journey, I refer to myself as a guide rather than a host, as I too am traveling, learning from others, and supporting others on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your guide, Tracy C. Wright. And today I am so honored to have an amazing and wonderful guest here. Now, many people struggle with doubting the validity of their psychic abilities. And through this focused 90-day psychic development mentorship program, Brandy guides and supports individuals to overcome their self-doubt, strengthen their intuition, and teaches them how to fully embrace and harness their psychic gifts. The results are transformative. Clients gain confidence in their abilities, live with purpose and fulfillment in their daily lives, and become empowered to make a meaningful impact on the world. Brandy, welcome to Ready, Set, Reiki.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thought we would never get to this moment, right? We made it. So let's start our journey together. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I know that your whole podcast is about Reiki. So I don't do too much with Reiki. I've never actually tried it myself, but I do consider myself to be a light worker. I work with energy, definitely. So I'm a medium. And a lot of people don't know the difference between a psychic and a medium. So a medium is someone who can talk to people who have passed away. So all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. So not all psychics have that ability. But I was going through my journey of like when I was very young, I didn't know, like I knew something was going on, but I wasn't sure. I was hearing spirits, but it was my own voice, but it wasn't my thought. And so I was like, okay, I better not tell anyone, or they're gonna think like, I might be a little crazy or something. So I kept it to myself. But then when I was in my 20s, I had the most profound spiritual experience ever that changed everything. So my grandma was passing away. My family and I were in her hospice room. And as she took her last breath, I literally felt her spirit rise above the bed. And when I looked above the bed, I saw these colors that like aren't even in this world. And they were forming a star and beating in and out like a heartbeat. And in that moment, I just knew that death wasn't final. I knew that she was going on to a new amazing place, that she was at peace. And it just changed everything for me in like that 2 minutes. So I really started to go on my journey of how can I obviously have the gift. So what can I do here to make this more of a everyday thing versus like a once in a while thing? And I just read like a ton of books. I was listening to podcasts, watching YouTube shows, and nothing was working. So I was like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. But then my friend, who's also a life coach, said, did you ever try to find a mentor? And I was like, I don't think they exist. So I looked for one. I couldn't find one, but I had been going to a medium myself. And I just asked her, is there any chance you could take me under your wing and kind of show me the ropes of what you did to get where you're, to be able to do readings and to be where you are? And she did. And I only worked with her for maybe an hour a month for 6 months. And my abilities just skyrocketed. Like I could control my ability. I had it totally developed. I was able to do readings, call spirits on demand, tell them to go away if I wanted to. So now I'm a mentor because, I did readings for a lot of years, but now I want to help those people that are in the same shoes that I was in, where they just need somebody to take them by their wing and show them the ropes.
Beautiful. Was anybody else in your family a medium or had psychic abilities?
So it took me years to tell anyone what I had experienced in the room with my grandma because like you don't know what other people's like thoughts and beliefs are, and I didn't know if they'd believe me. So once I did tell them, nobody was surprised. Apparently everyone on my mom's side of the family is psychic. So like when I announced it, my mom's like, oh yeah, we kind of all have that. And then my aunt was like, yeah, I have it, and my cousins and my uncle. And I was like, what? So like we never talked about it. And so now I'm like, a spokesperson and talk about it all the time so that someone doesn't feel like I didn't feel alone whenever if we could just talk about it, maybe there's a lot more people out there just aren't talking about it.
Right. It's like that family secret, but everybody has that ability.
And then no one was surprised. I was like, okay.
Right. So as you're out, you've developed your abilities, you're working with someone who is a mentor. You've been out doing this for a while. What is a common misconception that you have found about psychic abilities, about being a medium?
Yeah, so I think that some people think that you either have it or you don't. Like this is
Mm,
something that I was born with. I've had it my whole life, and it's just something like that's a part of me where it's literally like any other thing. Like if it's like a sport or an instrument. Like if you want to play an instrument or a sport, you're going to have to learn like the notes or the steps or whatever. And this is the same thing. As long as you have an open mind and if you have an interest in it, we all have a sixth sense, which is our psychic sense, which is our intuition. So they're all the same thing, but I don't think people realize that. So we all have that within us. It's just a matter of if you want to ignite it, if it's never been come to the forefront before in your life.
Well, what type of client do you get? Do they come through the door or get in contact with you because they want to connect with a loved one, or are they wanting to seek guidance?
They definitely want to seek guidance. And with that, usually comes that they can talk to a deceased loved one, which is a great perk, right? But yeah, they're usually like, I know I have something or I think I have something, but I'm not able to control it. I don't know how to develop it. And they've been doing it on their own for years and it's like not getting anywhere. There's so many classes out there that are like 1 hour of this and 1 hour of that. But it's like kind of like all these pieces of the puzzle, but you don't have all the pieces, and then they don't tell you how to put all the puzzle together. So I was definitely there, like trying to do it on my own. So yeah, these are people that they know something is going on, but they just need some guidance on it. Yeah.
So I remember watching an old clip of a Sylvia Brown. I don't know if you've ever
Oh
heard of
yeah.
her. Okay,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Sylvia Brown, and I believe it was the one where she was on Larry King, and Larry King's like, "Do you play the numbers?" And she's like, "I can't read myself, Larry." Do you find that for yourself, where you're able to have things come through for yourself, or do you need someone else's, kind of guidance to see things for you?
So it's a little bit of both. Usually, if someone does a reading for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I ever get that reading for myself? But then I can also like still talk to my grandma. I can talk to my spirit guide. So I can do it on my own. But yeah, lottery numbers, usually greed is considered a negative energy, and spirits don't have anything to do with negative energy. So they're not going to give us those numbers, unfortunately.
Right. Because my husband's like, what are the lottery numbers? I'm like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice, right? So you have some, people come to you, who are dealing with personal matters, things from their family, challenges. What has been the biggest challenge or struggle you have faced in your own healing journey?
So by far at the beginning, it was trusting myself. And, that's what all my students have as well. That is the number one biggest obstacle because, our whole lives we're taught to listen to the left side of our brain, listen to ration and critical thinking and analysis. And then all of a sudden it's like, I can talk to a spirit. And so your left side of the brain is like, there's no way you know that. There's no way this is real. And it's a battle between the left and right side of the brain because now you're trying to listen to your intuition and to your spirit and what's inside of you and that inner guidance versus it doesn't have any facts. It doesn't have any ration attached to it. So it's really this battle, I think, for everyone to gain that trust, that self trust, that trust in spirit, to be able to give messages and to just kind of let go and trust that the message that spirit's giving is the right one. Even if I do a reading right now and someone's like, this doesn't seem right, I don't, I can't validate any of that. I still give the message, and it took me a long time to get to that point. But
Mhm.
maybe it didn't happen yet, or maybe they need to talk to their mom or grandma, and then they validate it. So you just never know. So I just, as long as you believe that spirit is giving the right message, it's us that thinks it's wrong because we're trying to figure it all out. But if you just trust it and go with it, it's a beautiful place. It just takes a while to get there.
Sure. Because I recall, like in the early days, you just get this feeling like, maybe I should get off on that exit instead of staying on where I want to go, and I'll ignore it. And then boom, runs into traffic or something.
Yes.
Or that feeling like, oh, I better take my umbrella. Nah, I'm fine. And then you find out you're caught in a downpour. So it starts as those little like spidey senses, so to speak, they're trying to tell you. And then it starts becoming a little bit of bigger things. And when you get that validation after a while, you're like, okay, like when these come up now, I really need to speak up and say things. And, and oftentimes, I'll bring in, like, I don't know if you bring in cards or anything, people always think it's what's happening right now. And I'll tell them, take a picture of the cards because things change. This might be something in the future, or maybe you'll think of something later. When I've gone to psychics, they'll bring up something like this in the family. And I'm like, no. And then when you talk to somebody later, it's like, oh, so, take notes, right? Write things down because the information is coming. And then as it comes through you or me, we're having to decode it, right? And with our own experiences with that. So that's a struggle I have myself as well. Where do I tell people, are they comfortable enough and trust me enough? Are they still frightened or is it scared? So that's hard to navigate through with that.
And it's also an ethical line too. Like, unless someone comes to me for a reading, I'm not going to just like go up to a random stranger and be like, hey, your dead grandma's coming through. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't know, that can turn them into like, they could be grieving, or maybe they think you're crazy.
Sure. Right. I recall, I had a season where I had lost, a couple family members and a friend, and I had reached out to someone, and I was in Pittsburgh living at Pennsylvania, and we were reading. Yeah. So Pittsburgh.
My family's there. My whole family's there.
I just moved to El Paso here about almost 3 years. So Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I grew up in Munhall, Pennsylvania. Lived in Murraysville, worked at Kennywood. I worked at the fish pond, the birthday game.
Amazing.
Went to IUP. Yep.
Oh my gosh, my sister went to IUP. My family's still in North Allegheny. Oh my gosh, look at the synchronicity going on.
Love it. So you will definitely know this psychic. I'll tell you after. But anyway, she's like, your dad is coming through. I'm like, okay, your dad has a message for you. Okay. And she said, he's showing me a coffin. And I'm immediately, because we had so much death, oh my goodness, who's dying? And then I didn't hear anything else in the message because all I thought was someone's going to die. And I got myself so worked up that it was counterproductive of what I was going there to see her for. But it could have been a completely different message had I allowed her to decode it in a way. But as soon as she said coffin, I thought, oh my goodness, who's going to pass? Who are we going to lose now? And called the kids, are you okay? Down that rabbit hole.
Oh. And that can actually create like a block, right? So if you're not relaxed and if you're stressed out or grieving even, it's going to create a wall. So it's going to be a lot harder for the medium.
Absolutely. And so it was like I said, anything she said after that, I didn't hear it. And she might've had some important message. And then I had to do all the things that I needed to do to calm down. Right. So that just gives you an example of, how someone can react to things. And a lot of people think that they're going to get something scary out of it. And it's all through light and love with that as well.
Yeah.
So what do you wish your younger self knew about psychic abilities? I mean, you kept this quiet for some time, right?
I know. Oh, if my young self would have just known, if my family would have talked about it, if I would have even told them, right? If I would have just said at 10 years old, this is what's going on, maybe then they would have said something. I just feel like I think I would still be where I am in the journey, but it would have happened way longer and I could have helped so many more people. So I just feel like instead of being lost and confused or feeling alone and all of those things, I could have just been so much more confident and been able to help so many more people. So that's the biggest regret.
Oh. So when you are out and you need to go, I mean, you said that you get a lot of help and support from the other side. Maybe you have gone to see psychic mediums or mediums. energy workers, so forth, what are some qualities that you look for? You have the mentorship program. What do you tell your students are some qualities that you look for in a medium?
Yeah. So it's just like any other service. Like if you're going to go get your hair cut or you're going to need a plumber, look for the Google reviews, see if you can talk to a past client. You want to
Mhm.
have those like testimonials and reviews, just like anything else. Because unfortunately, there are some people who commit fraud out there that just want your
Mhm.
money. A good medium, if like nothing's connecting, they're going to know within 5 minutes and they're going to tell you, like, I'm not able to connect. They should
Sure.
refund you your money and reschedule, try again, maybe in 6 months.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's definitely things to look out for. But yeah, the reviews, the testimonials, I mean, that's huge. And of course, like use your own intuition, right? Like if you're
Mhm.
getting a bad vibe from this person, like then don't go to that person.
Right. Yeah, it really makes a difference, even just connecting with the people to get that sense of energy. And there's a lot. I remember I was listening to Kyle Gray, who he's a
Oh yeah.
Reiki practitioner and he does energy work and everything. And he had gotten on a call. And of course, he's from England, right? And so he had come to California and he said, I can see why all of you are struggling. He said he went somewhere and there were so many different psychics and mediums. Like, where do you go? Where do you
Yeah.
start? So that's
Yeah.
some great advice to look for the reviews kind of thing. You
Yeah.
always hear that joke where you walk through the door and you're surprised I'm here. I thought you'd be psychic. You knew I was coming, right?
Yes. And it's not just for psychics and mediums, but even the mentors, right? So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's why I have 90-day program and I'm
Mhm.
there with them every step of the way. They can talk to me every single day if they want. We have live Q&A calls over Zoom. Like I want to be a part in their lives while they're experiencing this to give them
Right.
automatic feedback. Because same thing, if you're going to take a class that's maybe self-study, that you
Mhm.
can't reach out to the teacher, I mean, there's different ways to do different exercises. So if a question pops up on an experience that you're having or an exercise that you're doing and there's nobody to ask, it's it's another rabbit hole, like it's going to cause frustration. You're not going to trust yourself and all of that. So yeah, even with the mentors, it's great to have a good review.
Right. And I'm seeing a lot more now of, 30-day, 90-day, 1 year mentorship, apprenticeship out there now. I guess, with one of the good things about COVID is that we were able to jump online and take opportunities to get trainings and modalities and level up. But some people, look at like, okay, I can do this for $9.99, but it's so important to have somebody really guide you through this, like to have a
Yeah.
physical person. And it's okay if it's on Zoom, if like you and I are connecting and talking so we can ask questions. And so a lot more opportunities are coming up because people just need a little bit more help and guidance, like that, online class that you took for 3 hours and you're going out there and trying to navigate it. You really
Yeah.
need to go a little bit deeper. So spend the money in the beginning to get that connection, that teacher, that guidance, that support. It'll save a lot of frustration in the long run with things, because I think people aren't understanding that this is energy work. You're connecting, I'm with Reiki connecting with the clients as well, and things can come through, right? And you need to learn
Yeah.
techniques such as spiritual hygiene and things like that. And when to have like your office hours, right, of
Yes.
spirits coming,
Yep.
right? Going back to Cal Gray, he says that he has like a little knob on the back of his head, or his neck, he imagines, where he says earth and heaven.
That's awesome. Yeah, and when something is like, let's say you were going to go to the gym, do you think that in 3 hours you're going to build muscle and change your body, or do you think in 90 days or longer you're going to change something? It's that same thing. Like
All
you're
right.
working out a muscle that's never been worked out before,
Mhm.
and if you think you can magically go to the gym and work out for 3 hours and have an amazing body, like wouldn't that be awesome? But it's just
Right.
like this little everyday subtle mindset shifts that need to happen, and that's not going to happen in a 3 hour course.
Right. Right. So you offer this 90-day mentorship, the support, the guidance to help people really harness in their psychic gifts. What advice would you give someone who is just entering the spiritual work?
So I would give them the advice exactly what you were saying. Like, make sure you find a mentor. Like, even if it's not me, like, please find a mentor
Right.
because, if you can find that like minded individual who will guide you, it's just so much easier. And it is going to not only, help you with guidance and support, but it's also going to make it a lot shorter, right? So it's going to
Mhm.
accelerate that process. And it's
Mhm.
also going to be safe because if you just start opening your energy up without knowing what you're inviting in and you don't know how to protect yourself, I mean, there's a safe, structured way to do this. And if you
Right.
just decide to dabble and kind of willy nilly with it, like then bad things could possibly happen. Negative entities could come in, and that's the scary part, right? It's actually scarier if you don't learn how to develop and control it. That's when it's scary. But
Sure.
if you learn, that's what makes it a lot less scary because you have control over it and you'll be able to only bring in that positive energy.
Right. And I mean, you also have to look at, you're not only protecting yourself, but you're protecting your family. I had a situation where I guess whatever was coming at me and my dog intervened and my dog ended up getting sick and taking it. So it can affect your home,
Yeah.
chaos, little pranksters, I call them, right?
Yeah.
That can come in and wreak havoc also. So, as you continue to do this, as you work with more clients, as you gain students, you're going to have these abilities and things are going to start being attracted to the light, right? And
Yes.
come
Yeah.
through. And you're going to need to learn how to navigate. Now you're not going to have all the answers, but that's why it's great to have someone like you as a mentor. And I'm sure beyond the 90 days, if something happens, you can, connect
Yes.
with you beyond that. When I first did my Azui Rahiho, I got trained in Pittsburgh and Irwin in the energy connection. My two teachers there were Linda and Mia, and they both still teach Reiki today. And at level three only made me a practitioner. So I needed to take like an apprenticeship or a year long to become a teacher. And that really helped me understand how to create a class, how to structure things so that I could write my own manual. Because in the lineage I came from, you passed it from teacher to teacher and you tweaked it and modified it accordingly. But had I not had that experience, and even though I had a background, I had an education background, I taught in the schools. So, but that helped me go a little bit deeper versus, some that in a weekend, 3 days, we can get you ready to teach, or, hey, like, here's this class, you can take it in 2 weeks. And so it really helps to have that mentor. And even today, years later, I still reach out to Mia and ask her questions.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always tell my clients that, like, I will be here. I'm not going anywhere. So if it's years later, like, please reach out because I know things are going to happen that didn't happen during those 90 days. So yeah, absolutely. They can always reach out to me. But I love that you guys for Reiki actually have that certification because for
Mhm.
mediumship, there's nothing like that here.
Yeah.
Over in
Yeah.
the UK, they have it, but like we don't have anything to say, hey, I have this license or this certificate. So it
Sure.
does make it a little bit harder, like you were saying earlier, like who do you choose then? That's why you have to go off the reviews because we
Yeah.
don't have a certificate or a license,
Sure,
unfortunately.
sure. And I mean, there's even like an international center of Reiki that you can become a member. There's different associations like the Reiki Association. You can get insurance. So we're able to insure ourselves. So that brings a little bit more credibility that you have the training and can show. And you have people that come in and ask what your lineage is so that you can show your little family tree of like, okay, well, I came from here and this is my line here and here's my training. So yeah, now that you made that point, I can see how like, oh, well, this is going back to the misconception that, oh, you must be born with it, that it can't arise. And you can have different experiences in your life. Maybe you had like my one teacher, she had a near-death experience, right? And that can awaken that, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be you're born with it. It can develop at really any time, whether it's a trauma or a near-death experience with that. Yeah, but there's
Absolutely.
you have like the psychic school, certification.
Yes.
So like doing a 90-day program and saying, hey, like I went through this and I, have all this education and training and hours because for my apprenticeship, we had to do so many hours of Reiki. We had to keep it in a notebook. We had to document it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
So
that's
what
awesome.
what books do you recommend?
So that's so funny you mentioned Kyle Gray, so I may as well throw his book out there, Raising Vibrations. Love that book. Yeah, so that's one. But I absolutely love the Spirits book by Alan Kardec. I mean, if you're into like hearing how it was back in the 1800s and how mediumship all became about in the 1800s, he
Mhm.
basically was a skeptic himself. And then he started interviewing all these mediums while they were in trance to be able to get answers from the spirit world, which was, that book's amazing. It's like Spiritualism 101, awesome. And then another book is Destiny of Souls by Michael Newton, PhD, where he hypnotizes people, and it's like 7,000 people or something, and they all had similar experiences when they go back to the spirit world in between lives. Like, just mind blowing. Those are my three, I would say.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So what other services do you offer? You have your mentorship, do you do classes, do you do events?
Yeah, so I do local in-person workshops where I'm teaching them how to develop psychic abilities. But again, it's like I tell them right off the bat, you're not gonna be psychic after this hour and a half class, but at least I can give them some pointers to at least get started, to open their mind and to see if they would want to possibly get into a 90-day mentorship. I also do mediumship readings. I also do spirit guide readings. So if you wanted to communicate with your spirit guide and ask questions, like the bigger questions about career, health, relationship, those kind of things, I can do that. And then I'm also an animal communicator. So I love being able to speak with like live animals are so much fun. Mediumship readings are, I mean, they're very healing, and but like people are very sad, and it's very emotional, right? But then I can switch it over to the animals, and it's like so lighthearted, and they're funny, and they have great personalities. So if you're like wondering about their behavior, or if they're in pain, or something like that, or if they did pass over and you want to talk to them, so I can do all of that as well, which I love it so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love it. So where can we find you? Do you do
So
online,
yeah,
person?
yeah, I'm online at brandyvan.com. That's Brandy with an I. And I actually have a free masterclass. That's the one that I do, the in person one, but I actually have it on my website. So if you sign up for it, you'll get the hour and a half masterclass for free. Now, of course, you're not going to have me to be able to ask questions or anything. So I also recommend, even if you just need a like minded person, like maybe there's no one in your life you could talk about this stuff, I would love to be that person for you, just to show you that, like, hey, this stuff is real. You're not crazy. I've been there. So I do also offer free half-hour calls. So that way, if you just need someone to talk to, I would love to help in that way. Also, even if you don't think I'll ever become your mentor, just let me be that person for you, because I know this journey can make you feel very lonely, and I don't want anyone to ever feel that way.
Oh, that's really wonderful. I mean, that's what's great about, you offering that. There's very few, there's some that do offer like the little 15-minute or 30-minute calls, but that's wonderful to offer that, just to have someone to talk to and kind of, know that, what's happening is normal, right? It's part of the process. And, as you learn and study this, like, when I got into Reiki, it was like, wow, these are things that I was doing my whole life, but now I have a name for it. And
Yes, yeah.
you're not feeling like so isolated with that. So wonderful. That's fantastic that you're offering that. Well, that ends the first part of our journey, and we're going to continue on. I'll continue guiding you through the next part, which is social media questions. These are questions sent in by listeners and energy worker students. So number one, what are some of the signs of being a psychic? How do I know?
Yeah. So there's a difference between having psychic experiences and being a psychic. So psychic experiences are, you go into a room and you get a bad vibe from it, and you're like, I just don't think I want to be here. Like, that could be something. Or maybe you think of someone that you haven't thought of in a long time, and then they call you later that day or text you, or you run into them, something like that. That's like a telepathic experience. Or maybe you'll like someone's like watching you, but then you turn around, there's nobody there. That could be spirit. Or if you ever get like a shadow out of the peripheral vision of your eye, if you think something's there and you look over and nothing is there. I think of some other ones. Maybe if you get like tingling in your stomach. It's a good thing. Or like chills down your spine, things like that, like little simple things that might be happening to your physical body. So there are things to look out for, but I think a lot of people don't know the signs. So
Mhm.
people are like, no, I don't have any psychic experiences. I've never experienced anything. But then when you bring these things up to them, they're like, oh wait, I did have that, or maybe they did have deja vu before, and things like that. And they're realizing, oh, I did have this experience. Now that's different from a psychic, because a psychic is someone who's actually developed it, controlled it, know how to use it in their lives. So that's the difference between the two. But
Mhm.
yeah, we all have psychic experiences, and once you realize what signs to look out for, actually, I have a blog post on my website. So I have a lot of free resources in my blogs on my website, and there's quizzes on there and tests. So it will actually show you different things, and then you can like fun little quizzes that you can like add up to see how many experiences you had. So you might want to check that out as well to look out for the signs.
Right. And going back to like a misconception, like someone may think, you've seen like when they do research to see if someone has abilities, they've done that testing with twins, where they'll hold up a card and you have to tell them the number or the shape on the other side. Would you think if someone is psychic because if I hold up the card and you tell me the number on the other side?
So when people ask me a question like that, I always say that spirit gives me bigger messages than that. Like I don't feel like they're gonna waste their time on like
Right.
telling you how many like fingers are behind your back or what number you're thinking in your head. Like
Right.
it's a lot more than that. So yeah, if someone thinks I'm not psychic because I don't know the number, like that's not. I think that's a misconception.
Sure. There we go. Number two, should I develop my skills instead of letting them unfold naturally?
Oh, that's, I think, a case by case one, right?
Mhm.
Because if they are unfolding naturally, I still think you need guidance, because even if things are happening, you want to make sure you're doing it in that safe, wise way. But if they are, and it seems like it's okay, and you know what you're doing in terms of like protecting your energy, I think it's okay. But if you're like struggling and it's like becoming bothersome, and it's interrupting your daily life because you don't know what's going on, and maybe you're somewhere in between there, but yeah, so I think it's still always good to have some kind of guidance.
Right.
um, but yeah, as long as you think you're doing it safely, and maybe you've talked to someone who's done it before that can guide you if it is opening naturally. But yeah.
Well, in the Reiki world, there are some people. Traditionally, it's something that's Azui when he had his Reiki Rahiho. It was an initiation, like an attunement from the teacher to the student. And then there are some systems now where it's a placement, say like Holy Fire Reiki, where it places the energy in you. Now there are some individuals that they had neither of them, and say an angel attuned them or gave them that placement as it did with Uzui. So he received it directly from source. So there are some masters, teachers out there that received all of those within. I
Yeah.
interviewed somebody that he said it came in a dream. He got his attunement to Reiki in a dream, and was quite interesting. And he was explaining the dream with no real background of studying it as someone who studied it. And I'm like, you got an attunement.
Wow.
As we were piecing it together. So that's an interesting question. I agree. It would take case by case with that, because
Yeah.
there's just some people. I mean, you look at somebody like what's it, Tyler Henry, the one
Yeah.
that so, and he even works on himself as well, and practices and does all these things. So he's continuing to kind of hone in on his craft a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah,
constant.
I'm definitely always, I feel like every day, I don't want to say every day, but a lot is still like growing. And like even just a few months ago, I didn't know I could do animal communication. And it's like, oh, I can easily talk to animals. I didn't know until you start trying it, right?
Yeah, and there's actually a system. I mean, you can work on animals and plants and everything in any system of Reiki that you do, but there's an animal Reiki, and many, you don't have to be, but there's some people that are animal communicators that blend both of it to bring the healing energy in and the communication side of it as well, to take it a little bit deeper. So, yeah.
And the other thing is, I just thought of, because you said if, like, let's say it just started developing naturally. Okay, let's say my grandma says she's here with me, but like, how do you know for sure, right? So they also, like you said, those tricksters, right? So it's like they might be saying something and you might be believing it, but maybe just even go to a medium and see if it's true, because that can be scary as well if you're believing it, but you don't have the guidance to know for sure if it's that person that you're talking to, for example.
Yeah. When now it runs in my family. My grandmother had the ability, my mother does, but my mother shuts it down because she's very, Bible based, and I would color her a Christian. So she really shoots down a lot of this. And I have things that come in dreams and see things and kind of know things. And when my youngest was little, she could see things. And this was like 7, 8 years old. And I actually had to reach out to someone who in Pittsburgh is a psychic medium. And we went to her and she talked with my daughter to give her some tips on how to navigate. Because my daughter, I don't know if with being in the Pittsburgh area, knowing there's a camp called Jamonville. And in Jamonville, there's a huge cross there. And my daughter would go to camp for karate. And it was every summer. And she would go and she was telling me these, like, there were kids outside in the dark and they were running around and playing. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were so detailed in what she said. And we went up on like that last day, a celebration. And I said, well, where did you see these things? Where was your window? Here's my window. And I saw this monument that was there, and it was all of like the orphans' names on it. I'm like, oh my goodness. And like, she didn't even see that monument there. And so I thought, okay, well, we need to go and talk to somebody about this, as long as she felt safe. And that was my concern, is I didn't want her to be frightened by this with it. So
But that's awesome that you believed her and you took action. Some people their parents might have not.
Yeah. And I mean, I can, when my eyes are closed, I can see it, but like if she would see it, she could see everything.
Wow,
like, okay, there has to be something here. But yeah, like she didn't want to go to sleep by herself at night when she was little, and she would see this and she would describe things, and she was not aware that where we lived was a coal. I mean, it was export where they exported coal out, right?
Yeah.
And she didn't know any of that because she was little. And she's like, well, he's dressed like this and he has this. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So, I mean, I believed her.
Yeah, that's great that you did, because a lot of people, they might not have that belief system in their family. So that's great that you did that. And then,
and my mother's version of it was just, well, we're just going to pray. We're just going to ask God for help. That was like nothing to pursue, right? It's like, no, we're not going to believe in that. So number
the thing that you had said about your mom too, I always get that, like, people will say, oh, I think it's against my religion. And I tell them, religion and spirituality are two different types of thought. It's basically like comparing apples and oranges. People can be religious and spiritual but not religious, religious but not spiritual. It's, religion is whenever you worship a god or whatever you might want to call it, whereas spirituality is your own personal journey. It's not a community journey. And it's to find yourself inwards and to go on that inner journey. But they both have the same goal. At the end, you want to help others and be your best self. So it's just like two ways of getting there. But so I feel like people confuse the two, when it's really not against religion. It's just a different form of thought.
Sure. And I think like words like psychic, medium, and even Reiki invoke something in people, and there's those that just automatically make that judgment that you can't be a Christian because you're doing this. You can't love God or spirit or Jesus if you do this. And I had some type of promotion up, and someone reached out to me and said, that they were a former shaman, psychic, etc., and this wasn't of God. And I, responded back, but I believe in God. This is my journey. He doesn't know anything that I do with my walk with Christ. And, it's just, and it was the idea of like, instead of you just kind of coming and trying to convince me or attack me, just pray for me then. You know what I mean? Why do you come here and say things and you don't even have a conversation with me? You just see that word. And you can really anything that you want it to be. There's no dogma or, any of that, any religion tethered to that. It's not like we have to sign a piece of paper. Oh, I'm going to be a psychic medium. Let me sign right here. Right? And let me sign right here for Reiki that this is what I'm going to do. I mean, you can bring prayer in before you connect, right? I have been to psychics where they hold my hand and we pray. We pray to God. We ask for the light of God to surround us, and only things through light enters. So you can really make it whatever you run. It's just finding that right person to connect with that. Okay, I go to church too, and I pray too. Let's pray together and we'll see what comes through, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So number 3, I saw you offer a 90-day mentorship program. Tell me about your program.
Oh, sure. So the 90-day program, I knew I would love to teach, right? But I actually love watching the transformation at the end of the 90 days. It's so amazing. So basically I have 6 modules, and I recommend that students only work on it for 10 to 30 minutes a day. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to college or something and I have all these hours of studying. Because just think if you were going to the gym for you haven't been there in years and you go for 5 hours, you're going to be completely exhausted. It's not going to work, right? So this is that same concept of building that muscle. So yeah, it's just 10 to 30 minutes a day. I have everything written out, and then I have all the exercises on video so that they can play it, rewind it, pause it, however they need to work it in. And then we also have the bi-weekly Q&A calls live over Zoom to be able to give each other experiences. I can give them feedback. We do exercises together. I answer any questions. But then there's also a free app on our phone. So on a daily basis, they can also reach out to me directly, or they can also reach out to the other students in the program as well, so that we have that like-minded community, and they also have that line directly to me to be able to ask questions. But everything is basically in the program. You have access to it your entire lifetime. It's not like after 90 days it goes away. And once you're in there, and we're finding whatever ability you have. Maybe you're an angelic healer. Maybe you are a medium. Maybe you're a medical intuitive or a psychic detective. We all have these very unique abilities. So once you're in the program, you're going to tell me basically, this is what I'm finding out about myself. This is what I'm learning, the ability that I have, and then I customize it. So let's say that we find that you are a certain clair, if you're hearing something, I'll give you more of those exercises. Or if you find that you're a psychic detective, I'm going to give you more of those exercises. So it's basically a baseline of 101. This is what you need to protect your energy, to learn. But then also, once you're in there, let's customize it, because everybody has a little bit different. And so we need to get it more customized toward whatever your ability is. Is that everything? I think so.
Very good. Well, that was our last question. And as we've been talking, is there something that you may have forgotten to share with us, or a message that you'd like to leave for the listeners? The floor is yours.
I think I just would like to remind everyone that there's so much out there that we can't see. So, keep that open mind, because there is so much out there, and it's really beautiful and amazing if you just allow yourself to be open to it. So I think that's my main message.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you, Brandy, so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join me on this journey. I really appreciate it. It was a real joy talking to you and learning about all of the things that you've been through and how you're helping others navigate through their abilities here.
Thank you so much. It was so great speaking with you as well.
Wonderful. All right, wonderful listeners. If you would like your question featured on the podcast, reach out at www.readysetreiki.com. I'm Tracy Seawright, and this has been Ready, Set, Reiki.